Hello everyone, this is Peter from Chennai. Welcome back to the Himalayan webinar series. Module number 5, Alpine Style Hiking, is actually my favorite module in the way that it will put an excellent perspective on what is the independent style solo exploration compared to the more common commercial group style trekking, which we see in 99% of the cases. Next 2 days over the weekend, we'll be talking about maps and navigation in number 6, and number 7 on Sunday, we'll talk about minimalism and fast hiking, which will also be a really interesting session. Okay, so as always, you can dial in live every day at 8 o'clock in the morning until May 4th for the upcoming sessions. You can join at the same URL shown below there. The sessions are recorded and posted first 10 minutes on Instagram, archived completely on my blog ultrajourneys.org. Request you to mute yourself during the session so we can have a proper recording, and post any questions you might have in the chat window. Okay, let's get started. So Alpine style hiking. Here we can see a shepherd climbing up the Kuchti Pass in Lahore on the way to Chamba Valley, behind the Chiefs or in his footsteps. So this gives a nice picture actually of a typical Alpine style hiker who is finding his own way, carrying his own gears and making his own decisions. Before we go to Alpine style, let's talk first a little about the common trekking style, the Sahib style. Sahib is a bit of a name from the British area. Some people also call it expedition style trekking. So Sahib style trekking has a couple of characteristics. Usually there will be several porters or animals, mules, horses, yaks to carry the luggage. You don't have to worry about the route or the path. The guide, local guide, will show you the way. There will be a cook present to ensure you have yummy cooked food at fixed timings of the day. You'll typically have not much of mileage, as given the fact that you're going with a group and the slowest people in the group have to be accommodated. So there will be a limited kind of daily mileage. There will be a kitchen tent where the cook and typically multiple staff will cook tasty meals for you. A dining tent where you can sit comfortably with table and chairs. Toilet tent will be there. Spacious tent with sleeping mat and big warm sleeping bags. Enough safety equipment for any challenges along the way, like ropes, harnesses, carabiners for semi-technical steep sections or river crossings. And some groups will even carry an oxygen cylinder to help you climb up to higher altitudes. So there are two kinds of views on Sahib style trekking. One view is actually that by relieving you from all the risk, the discomfort, the challenges of independent style hiking, that you have now maximum time, maximum opportunity to experience the hike, the landscape, enjoy the nature, take pictures, and not having to worry about all the logistics basically. Another view is that by taking away those same risks, discomforts, and challenges of like an independent hiker, that a lot of the trekking experience actually gets lost and you get a much lesser sense of accomplishment. So there are definitely benefits to Sahib style trekking in the sense that you'll typically be in good local company of either cooks or porters or horsemen who will you'll be able to chat with them to get a better understanding of the local cultures, understand the landscape, the practices. Obviously, you're actually employing a small army there, 5 horses, horsemen, cook porters. So there's some economic prosperity involved, especially if you don't go to a trekking agency. So local people get some job and can prosper. And it also shields you from all the administration of obtaining permits for certain routes. Okay, so that is basically about Sahib style trekking. Now let's take a look at what defines an Alpine style trek. An Alpine style trek is basically a trek where the trekkers will be self-contained, actually self-sufficient in all the aspects of the trek for the entire duration of the trek. So that covers various aspects. One will be the self-sufficiency in terms of gears and fitness. You will be the one to study and choose your trail. You will have to choose the right season for a particular route. You'll be in charge of obtaining your own permits. There will be definitely more flexibility required in case of Alpine style, as neither the routes near the day-wise schedule will be very fixed as you explore a lesser known routes. And we'll also list out some of the benefits of solo independent style hiking. So first, talking about the self-sufficiency, this translates in various aspects. Obviously, you have to carry sufficient foods till the next village where you can replenish your food supplies. This obviously depends all on the number of days involved in the pass, crossing out the traverse between two subsequent villages. You'll have to carry enough foods, fuel for cooking, petrol, kerosene, gas, whatever. You'll need some utensils, obviously, to cook and eat. Then the aspect of clothing is there. Clothing is a tricky one. So in one sense, you will need sufficient clothing to stay warm in the quite extreme high altitude climate. But on the other hand, also, you will be the one carrying all the clothing. So here you will have to take a kind of a good balance, a good call to basically focus rather on survival than on comfort. Then, of course, for shelter, you will have to carry a 1 or 2 man 3 or 4 season tents along with sleeping bags, sleeping mats. And then, of course, also for proper hydration, water bottle or water bladder. This is quite a bit of gears that you will have to carry all by yourself without porters or animals to carry all these gears for you. Choosing the trail is another important aspect. So where Sahib style treks or commercial treks typically go along well-established routes, pretty obvious, again, with a guide, so you don't have to worry about losing the way. In case of independent Alpine style hiking, you're rather to go away from the touristic trails and more go towards exploring lesser used routes, basically. So this will make it much more challenging, basically, because you will need good map reading and navigation skills. You'll have to carry either offline electronics maps with you or paper maps. You'll need some good amount of skills in finding the trail, trekking the trail via footprints, animal poop like horse poop or yaks going along the same trail. You'll have to look at cairns in Ladakh, and basically be aware of the overall topography of the landscape to stay on the route, especially lesser known routes near forest or meadow areas or easy to lose track of. You'll have to research the terrain, obviously, so that you're aware of the kind of challenges like screes, boulder zones, glacier crevices, stream crossings that you will have to come along. And according to these challenges, have to plan the necessary gears you have to take along, like ropes for technical sections, ice access for frozen snow gullies, crampons, snowshoes, as per the landscape as well as the season. In addition to choosing the routes, you will also have to have good knowledge to choose actually the right season for a particular route. Some routes are simply closed during the winter or even early summer. Typically, any pass above 4,000 meters will only open mid-June towards the end of June. Even the shepherds will only open the routes towards the end of June. Some trails again are closed in winter. Some trails are impossible during peak summer as there is too much of glacial meltwater. So it becomes impossible to cross certain streams. And then again, some routes will not be suitable, especially those in the lower Himalayas in the months of July and August when it's peak monsoon time. Obviously, you'll have to go yourself now to the necessary government offices to obtain the necessary permits for certain routes, especially those near the inner line, near the border. So sometimes that involves a lot of bureaucracy and time overheads. And then Very important with Sahib style trekking, as I mentioned earlier, neither the route, neither the kind of schedule will be very fixed in the sense that you're typically going to explore lesser known routes. So there will always the element of uncertainty. Whatever you plan, say a 3-day crossing of a certain new pass, will always not work out to be the actual case. So you'll always have to plan actually for the vagaries of Mother Nature in terms of unexpected natural obstacles on the way, landslides, stream crossings that delay your progress, sudden weather changes. So you should kind of plan for unexpected delays, which means backup foods. You might suddenly be snowed in for days if the weather changes. Despite your best preparation in terms of fitness and equipment, you might eventually not be able to cross the pass or reach your destination. River again crossing might be completely impossible in a specific season or in a specific time of day. So, and then comes the question, right, whether you have the balls actually, I mean, you can make the decision to basically abort the trek without avoiding failure or disappointment. So this is something that is easier said than done. After hiking for 3-4 days towards a traverse or a pass, having to take a U-turn at the last few hundred meters can be mentally very tough. But at the same time, it's better really to take, a mature call, a call of judgment, and do the same thing again at a later suitable time than losing your life in some unnecessary risk situations. Several benefits are there of solo or independent alpine style hiking. Obviously, your pre-trek preparation is essential, your fitness. So you'll have to kind of have a good fitness routine to make sure you're both physically as well as mentally fit to overcome the unknown challenges that lay ahead of you along the route you're exploring. You'll become pretty good in differentiating between what you want versus what you need for the trek. You really start focusing on only the must-carry items to reduce the weight, as you're the only one who is getting all the gears, so that quickly becomes quite heavy. Many of the high altitude trekkers will carry these 60-liter backpacks with 25 kilometers of luggage, which will really make it more like a struggle climbing steep uphill than really of an enjoyable experience where the mules or the porters are getting all your shelters and clothes and food items along with you. So you will come pretty good in differentiating the must-needs carry items for the trek. You'll become an expert in understanding and studying as well as understanding the terrain and the logistics to execute the trek, food planning, identifying suitable campsites, planning campsites, planning a route, how many days, which sections every day, how to acclimatize and all that stuff. And obviously because of all this items you're now responsible of, your sense of accomplishments will be so much far greater than for a group organized treks where the group, the porters, the guides, the horsemen will take care of all the logistics, the planning and everything. Another thing which will happen is that you will discover yourself as you basically put yourself in very challenging conditions, unexpected weather, unexpected natural obstacles. You're going to start discovering your own physical and mental limits, and you'll be surprised actually to understand how far you can push your mind and body, especially when you come across life-threatening situations. Obviously, your risk analysis, your decision making will be much better than with a touristic kind of group organized trek along an unknown route with unknown challenges along the way. Many cases, life-threatening decisions, life-threatening situations will be arise where, of course, the stakes of making the right decisions are very high. So your decision-making will become much more rigid, and then basically your belief in fate Some people call it God, some people call it nature. You'll really appreciate the overwhelming forces of nature in terms of terrain, in terms of weather, and realize it basically how much you depend on fate in certain cases. Not everything will be under your control. Voila, that's basically a little bit characterizing Alpine style trekking. Frequently asked questions of users new to Alpine style will be like, is it not dangerous to travel all by yourself, all alone in a remote landscape? What if I get lost? What happens if you get injured, if you have an injury, or if you fall sick all by yourself in the middle of nowhere? What about wild animals on the trail? And then, hey, what about camping all alone in the dark? These are some frequently asked questions. The thoughts here would be following. It's definitely involves much more risk to much more danger to trek along. If anything happens to you, nobody will know what has happened, let alone will there be anyone to get help or rescue. So it's definitely not advised for an inexperienced person, especially in a landscape like the Himalayas, to immediately go on a solo exploration journey and self-supported journey. It's better to initially go along with some friend partners to build enough experience before you venture out alone in this landscape. Getting lost is always possible, especially when the trail, the route is not used. There are no shepherds or hikers or local villagers using it. Given the volatile nature of the Himalayan landscape, the routes quickly disappear due to landslides, due to snow melt, due to the ferocious streams, boulder zones. So it's very important, I mean, to build those map reading and navigation skills, have a clear understanding of contour maps, topography, so that at any moment of time when you lose the trail, you can make the right decisions to get back to the right trail, or at least find your way back out of when you're lost. Then, of course, if you're traveling alone and you're injured or you fall sick, it again is a risky business. If it's, again, a well-used trail, within a couple of days, there might be some other hikers or shepherds passing. But if it's really an exploration in a less frequently used trail, you will be all by yourself, and you will basically need the mental skills to overcome the pain or the sickness and get out all on your own energy. And then, of course, wild animals, that risk is always there, more so as a solo hiker than compared to being in a group. The key there, as I will elaborate in a future session, is to always avoid surprising animals, basically. You should always make sure that your presence is felt. Never surprise animals or corner them. So in an open landscape, of course, animals can see you coming, but in a forest or in where you're like turning in a valley or something, or across a noisy stream, you might surprise animals who don't see you coming, and they might basically charge at you. Voila, this I hope gives a clear perspective on what is independent style solo trekking, alpine style trekking, versus say what 99.9% of most of the hikers are doing, going along with a commercial group or going along a well-established pilgrim or hiking route. Alpine style hiking involves so much more challenges in different levels, but at the same time gives you so much of satisfactions, gives you so much of learnings, building your mental and physical willpower, that it's a much more satisfying experience, basically. Thanks for attending the sessions. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat window. See you back, Pramod, my only one participant.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. It was a wonderful section. Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any questions?
No, after the end of the section, I want to attend all the section. In the end, I want to ask questions.
Okay.
Not now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah. See you tomorrow, Pramod.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Bye.
Bye.